Hey everybody, this is my 55-gallon Gourami tank, and tonight we're just going to do a before and after water change video, except in this case I'm just going to let the camera run while I'm doing the water change, at least for the time when I drain it and get the glass all wiped down and so on and so forth. Once we get to the filling it back up part, I'll go ahead and stop the video there, and that'll give us more of a sort of traditional before and after. So this is going to be it. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the water change. Again, nothing real complicated. Once we're done, maybe we'll do a feeding on the video or something. Not going to mess with the filter today. Just draining a bunch of water out of the tank. Going to get the glass wiped down. Tank tops back off. So I'm going to get started. You sit back and enjoy. Now I used to fill this up with water before leaving the other room, and then I would bring it in here and carefully put it in the tank. But I've stopped messing around with all that. All you got to do is put it in the tank, get it filled up with water, and then just lift it up. Let that water start draining, and once you get it going, then you've got your siphon going. So we've got it going, but right now the siphon is still just siphoning out into the sink through the faucet. I won't get any real good suction going until I put the hose down in the bathroom shower drain, because it's all the way down on the floor, and the lower you put the drain, the more suction you'll get. Right now, while it's draining, I'm going to use my little thin slices of melamine sponge. It's also sold as Magic Eraser, but if you buy it as melamine sponge off Amazon, you can get it very inexpensively. I'll go ahead and put a link down below to the packages I get, and then I cut them into nice small slices, and a pack of 48 of them lasts me, well, I don't know, I'm still working on the same original pack that I bought, and it's been many months and I haven't even gone through a quarter of it yet. I get anywhere from 6 to 8 of these little pads for every large pad that comes in the pack, and they do an amazing job at getting the glass clean. Do one side till it's dirty, flip it over and do the other side, and it tends to hold on to the grime and stuff that you wipe off of the glass. If you use the well, certainly if you use a scraper or something, you're literally just scraping the stuff free into the water column. But even if you use something like the polyfill or the polyester batting, you know, the stuff that I use for filter material, that wipes the glass down pretty well. It's not as effective as these melamine sponges, but it does wipe the glass down pretty well. But when you wipe it, it just swirls everything into the water column. You trap some of it in the polyfilm, but most of it gets just released right on into the water column. And so that's why I like these little melamine sponges. Now, I've had people suggest before that there's some kind of chemical or there's soap or something like that on there, and I think that comes from when you read the instructions on the sponges, it says that you need to get them wet to activate them. And that basically means that it'll be sort of rough and scratchy if you try to rub it across something dry. It's not really going to effectively work. It needs to have that water in order to grab a hold of whatever it's cleaning, you know, and bind with it and hold it in there. So water activation does not mean that there's some kind of soap or chemical or something like that that needs to get sort of activated by being turned on. It just means you need to get them wet before you use them, that's all. But I think I'm going to have to go and cut myself another one, because this is pretty much full, and we got a long way to go before that glass is clean. Probably get in here and pull some of this dead Java out too. Thin this out a little bit. That's some Java Windelov there. That's another one of the little babies. I'm going to go throw that in my grow out bucket. So I've sold a lot of the Java fern I've got, but I still have a lot of Java fern left. If anybody's interested, my email is down below. So make sure you check that out and get with me. I've got a lot of Java fern available. Alright, so this is what the melamine sponge comes, it's that big, and there's 48 of them in a pack. And so I cut it down the middle this way, and then I cut thin slices this way, and I get 4 slices out of each side, and I get 8 of those little small sponges. So let me go cut this up. We'll get back and finish up working on the tank. Now you can also see how low the flow of water coming out of that filter is. So I'm going to assume that the filter itself is not clogged. It is probably the filter intake that is clogged. So we'll try that and see what happens. I really should be getting in here at some point and doing this filter. It's been a while since I've done it, but it hasn't been that long, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm pretty sure that once I get this intake cleared off, we'll get some water flow again. Well, it's more, but that's still not anywhere near where it should be, so that filter probably is pretty dirty. So there's the intake. I'm going to go ahead and get that cleaned off, and then we'll put it back on. Alright, that filter definitely needs to be cleaned. That should be water, a lot more water than that should be flowing out of that filter. Unfortunately, it's already getting so late tonight that I'm not going to have time to mess around with that. This is another one of these evenings I'm getting in here where it's too late to do a whole lot, but I did want to get at least the water change and the glass cleaned off. So I'm going to go ahead and get a vial of the water that's coming out of the tank right now. We'll do a before and after comparison just to check the nitrate level and see what's going on in the tank. It's probably pretty high. This is one of those tanks that for whatever reason I just don't get around to doing a whole lot of water changes on. So we'll see what happens once we get that done. But I'm going to let a little bit more water than this drain. I'm going to do a pretty big water change since I'm in there. But we're going to be back in there again shortly to get that filter changed when I've got a little more time. Maybe even tomorrow I might get in there, because that is a really, really reduced amount of flow coming out of that filter there. So that must be a really, really dirty filter. So give me a second and we'll let the tank finish draining. We'll show you how much I take out of there. In fact, while it's draining, I've got so much of this junk stirred up, we can go ahead and do a little bit of a gravel backing while I'm in here. Just down out of this corner, there's some stuff that collects. And you can see that. Not a whole lot of stuff, but there's a little bit of crud and whatnot that can come up out of there. And I must always get some good stuff up out of the middle of the groupings of plants. Now what I'm doing now is just going through and I'm pulling on all the tips of the Java windle off, because that's where all the little new growth starts, all the little babies start on there. So if you just go through and gently tug on the ends of it, you actually pull all these little ones off. And these are all whole new plants. So once again, I've got loads of Java fern and plenty of little baby Java windle off here. So my email will be down below. And I'll also put a link to the melamine sponges. I don't get any promotional compensation for that, but I am an Amazon affiliate, so if you actually make a purchase through that link, I do get a small percentage of that purchase price, but I'm not actually sponsored by anybody. You probably all know the routine by now, but legally I'm required to explain that. Alright, I think that's all the young ones we're going to get, so that's not bad. And we can probably go ahead and reverse that water flow now. Alright, I am going to go ahead and get the water turned around at this point. So we'll have a quick look at what the tank looked like before. And there's your after. Now I will say that it is the following morning. It is now Saturday morning. I didn't get the tank done until fairly late at night, and of course all the detritus and everything was swirling around in the tank fresh after a water change, so I wanted to wait until everything settled down and cleared up. And now Saturday morning, it is indeed nice and cleared up. But I wanted to make note of how inactive the tank looks. I was thinking about when to start shooting the video. I wanted to see some fish activity swimming around, so on and so forth. But as I stood here for a few minutes, I came to realize that that's just not really the nature of what goes on in most of my tanks. Most of my tanks do not have the sort of frantically swimming fish like Danios, or I can't think of any other off the top of my head. But even if you'll notice my school of skirt tetras in there, skirt tetras are a reasonably active fish. But if they're not feeding and they're not breeding, they're just kind of hanging out waiting for something to happen, waiting for food to come into the tank. Maybe some fish might be a little more active as they investigate the tank. They look around for food and that sort of thing. But for the most part, you don't see fish just simply swimming around the tank, either, you know, like they're trying to get out of the tank, or just this constant back and forth motion. The fish usually just kind of hang out and wait for something to happen. You can probably see the one big algae eater on the rock, sort of on the left-hand side of the tank, but right smack dead center, staring right at the camera, is another Siamese algae eater, and it is in the Anubias that's right there in the middle of the tank, just to the left of all that big mass of Java Fern. You can see that Anubias kind of sticking up on the left there, and right on one of the leaves is my Siamese algae eater, who's just kind of hanging out. He's wiggling around a little bit right now. But you'll notice they spend a lot of time just lying around not doing anything. When there's no need for them to be active, they're really not. So I'm going to put a little bit of food in the tank, and we will see how active they actually become. We might even get to see some of the fish on the bottom coming out and swimming around. This is just going to be a little bit of the Greenland tropical flakes, color enhancing. Typically feed my fish in the evening, anywhere between 7 and 9 o'clock at night, and so this is really an unusual feeding event for them, and that's why they're not running around the tank all crazy. In fact, my moonlight gourami on the far right hand side of the tank barely seems to even notice that there's food in the tank yet. Now it's getting into the action. And on the bottom off to the right, I have some coolie loaches that live under those rocks. You may see them make an appearance. And then I've got big fat striped Raphael catfish that is underneath of the cave system there, sort of in the middle of the tank. And it may make an appearance once it gets the taste for some food in the water. So we'll have to wait and see a moment or two for that. But that's about all. Not a lot to talk about. After I got the tank filled back up, if you'll notice towards the end of the water change, the flow out of the filter stopped completely, and I had a difficult time getting it started again. The Sun filters, I do like them, I do use them, and I even recommend them, but they're low budget filters, and as such you get a little bit of, you know, low budget quality there, and the pumps to get them going again often will not work right, or they're really stiff or something. And I didn't have that issue this time. It actually pumped okay, but there wasn't enough actual water in the canister for it to create a suction and get a pump started. So I actually had to open the canister up a little bit, add some water to it, and then get it flowing again. And once I did that, we got the tank up and flowing again, and it's still a reduced amount of flow, so I know that the filter itself is very clogged up and in need of a change. So we'll be getting to that here in the very near future. I might even get in here this afternoon, depending on the weather today. And if I get one of my, get a lot of stuff done in the afternoon kind of days, this will be one of the tanks I address. I won't do another water change, but I will do the filter change while I'm working on another tank or something like that. So it'll get done soon enough. So there you go. Not a lot more to see there. Just a good look at my Gourami tank after it's been nice and cleaned up. You get to see a little bit of activity, the fish swimming around doing their thing. But usually in the morning time and throughout the day, this, like most of my tanks, as I was explaining, are pretty sedate, pretty calm experiences. And to prove that, we'll kick the camera just a little bit this way. And if you have a look over there at my 55-gallon tank that has my diamond tetras, angelfish, I've got some Siamese algae eaters in that tank, and if you look really closely, you can probably not make it out, but at the bottom, my big Pleco is sitting there. So let's go have a look at him, and then we'll call that the end of this video. Sold to me as a high-fin spotted Pleco from PetSmart. Been over this before. I don't know what the actual L number is. I know there's a lot of people that suggest it's this, that, or the other thing, and there are several out there that look very similar to it, but I'm not 100% sure which one it actually is. But that was a good look at it. So there you go, everybody. Just a look at my Gourami tank before and after water change. So I'm going to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you're subscribed. And I'll see you real soon in the next one. Thanks again.